it's me, Kirsten. This is the It's Giving Mystical podcast, and this is the card of the week for the week ahead. November 24th, last full week in November. It's been exciting. I'm so curious about everyone's experience of this kind of front body, back body situation. Whether your back body's kind of come into more play, your backbone, your strength, your fortitude, your self-reliance, trust in yourself, self-centeredness. That word keeps popping up and it keeps coming to me in these really funny ways where someone will be like, this is so amazing, I'm self-centered, and it's like such a positive thing. And then people will come to me and say, they're so self-centered, I feel too self-centered, and it feels such a negative thing. It's such a neutral idea to be centered in self, and we put so much on it. So it might be something interesting for you to journal on or put into like a little mind map around. Where do you go with this idea of self-centered? All it means is that you're here, you're home, you're in your body, you're in this incarnation, you're centered in self. And yet it means so much more than that. So I offer you that word as a kind of final experiment, as a final reflection on November and what it's been like for you and how you've integrated the revelation of the moon energy, the like dreamy, shape-shifting energy of the moonlight with the clear eyes of justice, how those two things have come together in your life. I hope for the better. I hope in a way that has fortified you and centered you in self in the best possible way. We are going to need that in the week ahead. The card I pulled for us is the Tower, and I pulled it in reversed. And I have to say that it was incredibly disorienting feeling this energy. It felt like flip the script. It felt the sky had been kind of turned on its head. And I don't say that to be spooky or make anyone nervous. I say it to validate the possible disorientation you might be feeling, or the not even confusion, but some way you have of rationalizing, reasoning, making sense of your world, narrating, framing your experience isn't quite clicking into place right now. And there's this sense of, what do you call it, like vertigo or disorientation around that. The Tower reversed could have a lot of meanings. It could come in a lot of ways. The primary way might be a blockage of energy. Like the primary way you might read the Tower reversed is like a buildup or a blocking of energy that is too constricted, too tight, and something wants to move, something wants to be expressed, something wants to move through you, something wants to inform you, transmute you, open you, and for some reason that's blocked. For some reason the valve is turned off. Oh, it just reminded me of a really funny dream I had where I was like clearing this bathtub and I thought flowers had gone down the drain, but then the drain got clogged and I started pulling out and they were like fake flowers, like plastic leis. It was such a funny dream. It was like this very specific detailed dream about clearing this drain of these like fake flowers. Take that for what you will. But that is this energy. The water can't flow, the energy can't flow, things can't move. So when the Tower comes in reverse, there's this incredible upswelling of energy, movement, flow that gets constricted for some reason, that gets blocked for some reason. That to me feels like the most important message around this, because what I'm feeling on the other side of that is how uncomfortable that is. Where that feeling of vertigo, that feeling of disorientation, that feeling of kind of the world turned on its head is because something wants to move and for some reason it can't. And I would just offer for you to be very gentle with that. When we have resistance to something, when something can't move, can't translate, can't transmute, can't flow through, in a lot of spiritual talk we can be like, well, just, relax your resistance. If you could just surrender to the energy, if you could just be more powerful, be more strong, believe in yourself, have more faith, then you'd be okay. Sometimes the resistance is exactly what we need. And this came up in the Akashic training, like the recap we just had or the review we just had. Anyone who tells you to like mow down your resistance, I would question that. Your resistance, like every other habit you have, like every other instinct you have, is there for a reason. And it's has in the past, if it's not now, it's kept you safe. There's some reason why you place that resistance, why you place that boundary up, that wall up, and honor that. And what I'll say about the Tower coming in reverse is, if you've heard me talk about the Tower before, one of the key ideas around the Tower is that it's breaking down the things we've built. So we have this life force, this light, this energy, and as we come into this world, as we incarnate, as we build into our personality, build into our sense of self, build into a person, we're told, like you need to do this and do this and do this. And here are the things you can do to keep yourself fortified, safe, and strong, protected. And so you build these walls. Well, this is the way I behave, and this is my career, and this is my education, and this is how I treat other people, and these are my relationships. And you kind of like build this wall, this tower, this fence, this bridge, this protective structure. When the tower energy comes in, that falls away. What you realize in those moments is that while you've been building this structure that the world can look at and say, oh, good job, you did that, nicely done, you've also been building this root system. And that has happened in the dark and the quiet, and it's happened in a way that couldn't be predicted. It's called up nutrients in this kind of magical, mystical way. Your root system has reached for what it needs, the way it needs it, when it needs it, in this very quiet, dark way. It reminds me of what came up in last week's podcast, this idea of privacy versus secrets. The root system is not secret, but it is happening in the dark. It is happening in private. It's incredibly fortifying. It's the thing that you will lean on when the storm comes. That's the part of you that can keep your feet planted when the ground is shaking, right? I trust myself to stay here. I trust myself that I can face whatever comes. That's your root system. So the tower is like the things that fall away, these kind of man-made or culturally dictated ideas of who you're supposed to be. And when the tower falls, it's those things that are falling away. So it's a good thing. It's a liberation. But what I want to say about resistance is sometimes you're not ready for that stuff to fall away. Sometimes you need another minute. You need another breath. You need another turn around the wheel. You need another walk through the garden. Like you need a little more time with your walls up. And I just would want to say to you, you're not missing anything. You're not missing your liberation. You're not missing your evolution. You're not missing who you're supposed to be. If you feel like you need a few more minutes behind that wall and you need a few more minutes with those bricks stacked just the way they're stacked and you're not quite ready for the lightning storm to break it all down, maybe that's just right. Maybe that's 100% okay. Maybe there's something to be said about the part of you that put that there in the first place. You placed that brick there for a reason. So just honor the fact that there's a reason why those bricks got placed there in the first place. And sometimes you're just not ready to knock them down. And I would say it's an act of love in many circumstances to say, like, I don't need to push past my resistance. I don't need to force my sense of safety, my sense of protection. I don't need to force it down. I don't need to knock it down. It'll come down when it's time. It'll come down when I'm ready. It'll come down when I feel safe in that. And maybe I take it down and I put it back up, and I take it down and I put it back up. And I just want to say that to you, say that to all of us. It's okay. You developed the mechanisms you developed to keep yourself safe for a very good reason. And they worked. They were effective. That's why you still have them. That's why you kept them. And if you are learning a new way, if you're learning to carry more energy, if you're learning to trust your root system a little bit more, both and. You can have both. You can be developing this really healthy, flourishing root system and standing on your own power and getting to know yourself, and also, keep a stone wall in the corner. Like, whatever, dude. I just want to say that any messaging you have that you're wrong or that there's something to force down when it's not ready to go down, I don't agree. I don't agree. And the tower coming in reverse doesn't agree either, because the feeling is, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute to catch my breath. Just give me a minute to feel myself in this moment. Just give me a minute to gain capacity around the amount of energy you're asking me to hold right now. Give me a second here to clear the drain, right? The tub is clogged and I'm trying to pull these fake flowers out of the drain. Just give me a second. I need a minute to finish doing that work, and then the water will run. I need a minute to clear off the deck or, clear the limbs from the trees, so when the lightning comes, I'm a little bit safer. There's something about you being able to modulate your experience of this Kundalini rising energy, modulate your experience of this extreme change, modulate your experience of this rawness that's being asked of you, this openness that's being asked of you in this moment. The Tower was the card of September along with the Hermit. So I would reflect back on September if there are things coming up this week that echo, maybe some learning, some discoveries, some shift that came about in September, and how that might be kind of coming home or settling in or demanding your attention, your adjustments around. That feels very possible. And I guess most importantly, you want to remember in a Tower week, when the Tower card comes, that this is happening for you. this is happening for you. Whatever this is, whatever you're experiencing, whatever the circumstances are, they may be exciting and exhilarating and, again, life affirming, like the Three of Pentacles was last week, or they might be challenging and you might want to tuck in, curl in for a little while. And it's all happening for you, and your reaction is what your reaction is. And sometimes you can get space around that, and sometimes you can't, and it's okay. I had a teacher, Liz Koch, who used to talk about, she does a lot of work with the psoas and the nervous system, and she used to talk about this idea, I've talked about it in Women's Circle before, of curling in, and it's kind of like the idea of the fetal position. I really noticed it when she was talking about it, not necessarily in myself, but in my children when they were younger, and they would kind of collapse, and they still do it. Like when they're overwhelmed, they collapse. It triggers something in me that's like, take a deep breath, sit up straight, put your shoulders back. There's this energy of like, don't give up, don't curl in, don't resign yourself. Like, you can do this, you're stronger than this. When I used to speak to my kids like that, it felt like a good thing. Like, come on guys, man up, like step up, you got this. But one of the work that I did with Liz, she really taught me that my discomfort with that is a little bit trauma-based and definitely a little bit distorted. There's a need in nature for us to curl. And sometimes we want to curl right back in. This came up in a reading for someone recently. Like, have you ever seen a morning glory or a night flower, how when it's meant to bloom, so either in the morning or at night, it's wide open. And then as the light, the heat adjusts and it's not the right circumstance for it, it tucks itself in. It disappears. It rebuds. And then when the circumstance is right, it comes back out. And it's really beautiful. I'm sure you've seen it before. It's such a cool thing that these flowers will bloom when they feel just right, and then they'll tuck in when they don't feel right. And an injured animal will do the same. They will kind of curl into themselves. And it can be like, oh no, but that's actually just right. There's a curling here that is a reset and a holding of yourself and a calibration, remembering of yourself. That's like, I'm just gonna stay here, I'm just gonna nurture this. Again, it does draw my attention back to what came last week with this privacy versus secret. The private, I just need to be with me right now. And there's something about that energy that wants to be called out. There's similar energy in the world when you need to arch, when you need to get bigger and wider than you've been. And we kind of prioritize that in our culture, right? There's that whole arm of social sciences that I think got debunked, right? The power stance stuff. If you take a big stance, then you're going to feel more confident and everyone in the room's going to think you're so powerful. Yes, great. Let's experiment with that, play with that. But sometimes you need to crawl back into that fetal position. You need to crawl back into that ball and just rest. Just rest. And something about that wants to come up this week too. Wherever you are, whatever you're experiencing, it is happening for you. It is a movement of energy. So if you want it to be water, fire, whatever you want it to be, but there's an expansion of your capacity to move energy. Beautiful, wonderful, amazing, liberating. Here we are. And if you need to calibrate that or adjust that so that it feels good to you, please do so. Everyone's heard me say this. My mom used to say this to me. You can always adjust your experience of energy. You can always say to your guides, your spirits, your angels, your animal guides, the universe, Pachamama, source, give this to me in a way I can metabolize. Give this to me in a way that feels like love. Give this to me in a way that I can handle. And there's something about the tower energy coming in reverse, which kind of gives me that same vibe of something pretty dramatic shifts. You don't have the conscious capacity to make sense of it right away. And whatever you need to do in that moment to make yourself feel okay, for this to be all right, do it. So curl in, take some space, take a walk, take a breath, take a nap, have some water, eat something, separate yourself out from a group. Think about your sacred space, what that means. Withdraw into that if that feels right. Maybe you need to arch into it. Maybe you need to step up and be bigger in it. That's okay too. But there's something about you might not be sure exactly how to handle this flip of the switch, this flip of the script. And you will, and it's happening for you. And you get to handle it any way you need to handle it to make it okay. I hope that helps. If you are feeling disoriented or a little bit of vertigo this week, stay with yourself. Prioritize getting yourself steady and clear and your sight clear again. Prioritize getting yourself steady and grounded and having a sense of which end is up. before you need to do anything else. That's your priority. Tower. You know that quote, Peter Pan, what if I fall? Oh, but darling, what if you fly? The universe, when it brings you tower energy, it is helping you fly. That doesn't mean it's not freaking scary jumping off the side of a cliff. Even if we have wings, even if we're sure of our flight, there's still that like, oh, and that's going to be with us this week. And whatever you need to do to gird yourself, strengthen yourself, fortify yourself, hold yourself through that, full permission to do so. Okay, December, I see you. Here you come. This Justice Month has asked a lot of us, and this integration is pretty profound, I would say. And that's cool. You got this. We got this. Onward, babies. Onward. So much love. Bye. It's giving everything is sacred. It's giving art. It's giving light you up and turn you on and set you free. It's giving curiosity. It's giving freedom. It's giving love. It's giving you are more magical and powerful than you can comprehend. It's giving, I don't know what's happening, but I am so here for it. It's giving you are pure potential. It's giving mystical.